coming up on Chopper's Politics.
They got it wrong over Brexit and they're getting it wrong over Boris. And let me tell you, Boris is not going away. And there'll be a cloud hanging over the new leader.
And then there were two. Hello and welcome to Chopper's Politics. I'm Christopher Hope, the Telegraph's Associate Editor for Politics. There's never a dull day at the Red Lion pub here in Westminster. They're doing some upgrades to their stairs this morning, so please forgive the banging and drilling. But on this podcast, well, we're quite used to people droning on. And that's just me. Well, after what's felt like weeks and weeks of a Tory leadership contest, it's been just 14 days, listeners. We are finally left with two MPs to go in front of the Tory members starting next week. And on September the 5th, Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss will be your new Prime Minister. So on this week's Chopper's Politics podcast, it's all about the Tories' leadership contest. As Sunak and Truss prepare to meet the members at the first of a dozen in-person members' hustings, I'll be talking to the former Tory party chairman Brandon Lewis, who organised the members' hustings back in 2019, 3 short years ago. And with talk of seller's remorse amongst Tory MPs who may now be regretting dumping Boris Johnson, former party treasurer Lord Cruddas of Shoreditch, Peter Cruddas, will be telling us why members deserve a say on whether Boris Johnson should carry on or not. But first, there's one politician who has set the Tory party election alive with their ideas, vision and clarity of thought. No, not Raymond Chishti. He was on last week's podcast, of course. I'm thinking, of course, of Junior Minister Kemi Badenoch, who came fourth in the Tory leadership contest with a very creditable 59 votes. Kemi Badenoch, welcome to Chopper's Politics. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Chris. I'm very happy to be here.
How are you?
I'm well, I'm good.
It's been an amazing few weeks for you, and we're starting this a bit later because you've done your school run this morning, which means you're back to being a mum again.
Yes. I didn't actually take them out. I just made sure that they were ready and just hung out with them in a way that I haven't been able to do.
Normality is returning into the bed.
Normality has returned.
And that is so nice, and that's what I think is... and it reminds me vividly of Rory Stewart after his leadership campaign, when he did so well in 2019. He came on this podcast in this same room, in the pub, and he asked to delay it so he could do the school run. I think this is what people in your position do. They want to have a normality imposed on them by the children. Do you regret standing?
No, of course not.
59 votes is not shabby at all. That's pretty good.
No, not shabby. Obviously, I would have loved to have had more. But what I keep telling people is that I'd been on government payroll for so long. When I resigned 2 weeks, it's now just 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, I just felt so liberated and unmuzzled. There's so much that I needed to say. I don't even think I got to say half of it. I wrote so many op-eds, just getting all the stuff out of my head, trying to explain to people what I thought wasn't working, how we needed to change. And I don't regret that for a minute. Even though I didn't win, I realised that I actually have quite a lot of friends in the party, lots of supportive people. That was actually really special.
And new friends too, who know who you are now and know your vision, which wasn't clear at all when you were doing all the different jobs.
I think one of the challenges that I've had is I've ended up being pigeonholed as, woke warrior or someone who only talks about race. But that's because I was the Equalities Minister, and those contentious issues around gender and sexuality and race are in the portfolio.
And that barnstorming performance at the Dispatch Box, which everyone saw and thought, wow, she's one to watch, about last year.
I was just doing my job, but actually I have lots of thoughts on a whole range of issues, and I was glad to be able to talk about them.
What's it feel like to run to be Prime Minister?
It's like you just end up being submerged in an ocean of thoughts, and it's all very frenetic. And I was really lucky because my campaign was my friends. So it wasn't me hiring professionals to do anything. They just sort of sprung out of nowhere. Some of us had talked about what kind of things we'd like to do in the future, and they kept saying, well, you should think about running.
I was going to ask you, clear something up. When did you exactly decide you wanted to be Prime Minister? Because when you went to the 22 hustings, I think you said, I decided to be Prime Minister last Thursday.
So that would have been 2 weeks ago, Thursday. So on Wednesday, I didn't know I was going to resign, but it just got to a point where I just didn't think things were defensible anymore. And that was so we resigned Wednesday morning. The 5 of us resigned together. That's right. And then on Thursday, Thursday, so what do we do now? And we started talking about, ideas. And then the PM left. And quite a few people said, oh, you should think about running. I don't think many of them realized that I would do it, because when I asked for their support, they said, oh, sorry, we're already supporting someone else. So it just goes to show people say all sorts of things that they don't really mean.
Yes. Your colleagues, Kemi Badenoch.
They don't really mean. So I was disappointed that people who had been egging me on when I actually needed nominations suddenly disappeared. But it was on Thursday, so it was shortly after the Spectator Party, which was 2 weeks ago. Lots of MPs were there. And I just decided it doesn't matter if I don't win. I think it's important that we have a proper debate. I would love to be the person leading, but I'm happy to work with so many other people. So 2 weeks ago, so it all happened and ended in 2 weeks.
And you told your husband, who writes in The Spectator today, Thursday, that you're his political hero, which is entirely appropriate for us.
Hamish is amazing. He's an amazing human being. I couldn't do any of this without him. And we met in the party, and he's always been behind me, always been really supportive. And I think he actually had more fun than I did.
Did you tell him first, or
well, he was. So he's always. It's hard to know when I first told him, because it's like he's always in my head. We're constantly talking. He knows everything I'm thinking. So he would just have known everything that was going on throughout. So yeah, he was with me all the way.
How did and the kids? You told the children life may be changing.
Not immediately. No. I mean, my children are quite young, so they found out on TV.
Yes,
they said, Mummy's on TV, and they got very excited about the counting. So my son, who's nearly 6, is really into numbers, and he was looking at the numbers.
He ran a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
He'll go far.
And then on Wednesday, was it yesterday morning? Must have been yesterday morning. Yesterday morning, he said he was really upset. He said, because you didn't get any more numbers. And I said, yes, but even though I'm out, that means I'm going to be able to spend all of summer with you. And he said, yes.
What's his name?
Ralphie.
Ralph.
Well, Ralph.
He's going to go far, Ralph, isn't he? He's working the list.
Yeah, he is.
So how do you start a campaign? I mean, you had to get a logo.
So we didn't have any of that. We didn't have a campaign video. There was no website. We literally started on Friday morning. So 2 days after.
That's 12 days ago, Kemi.
Yes, 12 days ago. And I always say that you can get anything done if you have good people. And I had amazing people. I had Lee Rowley, who's the MP for North East Derbyshire.
He's your campaign manager?
Yeah, he was my campaign manager. He's a brilliant organizer. I mean, I knew he was brilliant, but just watching him in action, he was able to hold about 100 different thoughts in his head at the same time and direct everyone. So I just did as I was told. And he said, go here. You meet this person. This is what you're going to do.
That's why they're important.
Yes, and I followed my instructions in terms of what to do. What to say was always me, but what to do and when to do it was him. Julia Lopez also ran the campaign. Alex Berghardt. They're just brilliant, clever people who always gave good advice. And this is what the kind of thing you should wear. And also they gave very good feedback, critical feedback. Well, this is what you did well. This is what you didn't do well, which I don't think I would necessarily have got from a campaign team that was made up of.
And you call the campaign "Kemi for Prime Minister," not "Ready for Kemi." Why was that?
Well, they picked that. I had no idea what. I just said, I'm not making those decisions. You guys decide. And I did raise my eyebrow. That might even have been Hamish. I did raise my eyebrow when I thought, well, why'd you guys go for that rather than something short and snappy? And then they started explaining. I think I tuned out because I just didn't think those things were important. What was important for me was, what are we about? What do we believe? What are we trying to say? And my pitch was that government does a lot of things that it doesn't need to do, which is why we're so inefficient. People think that's talking about cutting public services. It's just about doing things better. And the way we ran the campaign, why do we need a campaign video when we're talking to MPs? They know who we are. Let's have a conversation. And I just thought all of those things were people going through the motions of what they think should be done rather than actually looking at the problem they were trying to solve.
So you're viewing the whole campaign from what the MPs had to hear, not from what you thought they should hear, and that made it more effective?
I think so, but also just taking everything one stage at a time. I just didn't think that doing things for Twitter, even though it's important, was the first issue. The first issue was there are lots of colleagues who will be wondering why I am doing this because they wouldn't have seen me in cabinet. How can I show them that this is what I'm about and that I'm serious? And I didn't think a slick campaign video was it. And actually, I think the campaign videos actually got some candidates into trouble because there were things in there that were incorrect.
Penny Mordaunt, for example.
And then they turn into memes. And I just want to talk about ideas.
Yeah. On those ideas then, I mean, it's quite hard. If you want to be Prime Minister, you've got to think about ideas across all the panoply, the waterfront of government. Did you find areas you hadn't thought about a lot, like maybe in health or maybe in work and pensions, you hadn't considered ideas that a Kemi Badenoch PM would do?
So one of the things I said was, because of the short period of time in which we had, I didn't have an answer to every single thing.
But you were honest with the MPs.
Yes, absolutely. So when people would ask me questions around defence, for instance, which is not an area that I'd spent a lot of time thinking about, and so I stuck to, well, the line which we'd had, a little bit extra spending till 2028. I don't see a need to reinvent everything. It's the areas where I think there are critical problems that I focused on.
Did you ever imagine yourself with a finger on the nuclear button? I mean,
no.
That's what power is, isn't it?
No, well, you say that, but I don't actually think that's what power is.
Okay.
I think power is responsibility for other people's lives, and it was something that I said to MPs over and over again, that I know what you're doing is putting me in charge of your constituents, your lives, your careers even. It's quite a huge undertaking. It's a lot of responsibility, and we have to be very careful to make sure we bring people with us, but the decisions we make need to be thought through, not just going through the motions.
Were you surprised by her popularity? I mean, it wasn't just Twitter, it was a proper...
I was surprised.
Last Saturday, I was covering for the Sunday Telegraph. I think after you performed so well in the Channel 4 debate, there was a real feeling last Saturday that you could get onto the second.
I was surprised, and I feel, I don't know if this will always be the case, but I didn't feel that there was a Stop Kemi brigade. I felt that there were many people who thought, we never actually thought of you in this way. Maybe next time, we've already committed to another candidate. But I never, and maybe people just hit it well, but I never got a sense that people thought it's absolutely outrageous that she's even thinking about this. We need to stop her, which is nice. I think it means that my colleagues like me. I hope that they do, and I hope that I've built up more goodwill going forward.
Well, you topped the grassroots polls, didn't you? The poll, if they are to be believed, you were the grassroots darling who didn't get to the final two.
Well, let's see. Let's see how long that lasts. I think the grassroots polls are usually a reflection of the moment.
Yeah.
I think when you have to start taking difficult decisions, it's very hard to be the grassroots darling.
You weren't tainted by making big calls in cabinet.
No,
that's
which
what helped you.
Yes. I think that did help. But hopefully, if you make the right calls, you will get more approval.
How's your life changed? I mean, can you go to Sainsbury's and buy some yogurts?
Yes, I can.
Get unchallenged by shoppers?
Yes, I can. No, I don't think my life has really changed too much. The big difference is not being a minister, actually. So the ministerial life takes up so much time and so much of your mental bandwidth. And just having a little bit more time to have normal conversations, reply to messages, read more emails, do more reading. And, next week I'll be able to do more in the constituency. The ministerial diary already had things for me to do. Now I can actually just be in Saffron Walden and just do a bit more. And that's nice.
Be yourself. And we're seeing a lot more of your front door on the telly. Are you happy with the hedge? Okay, wasn't it?
No, the hedge was
garden. Did you?
Hedge was good. It was. Those are some of the things that I found quite disconcerting.
Yes.
Just stepping out of the door and having cameras outside, and my husband would go out first, ask them not to film the children and all of that. Thankfully, they were quite respectful about that, because obviously the school run was taking place at the same time. And
I thought you looked a bit awkward. I think any one of us would find it awkward.
It is awkward. It is
get to work and you got a camera in your face.
Exactly, and you're carrying things, and the camera person is literally blocking your way out of your own home. It is awkward. I won't miss that.
Well, what's next for Kemi Badenoch? I mean, there'll be a reshuffle now in the first week of September. I've tipped you for Home Secretary, for example. I'm sorry for that. That means it won't happen. But there we are. I mean,
I am not really thinking about the job. I'm thinking about the opportunity to solve problems. That's what I love. And I think you can make anything out of any job you're given. It's going to be up to whoever is the Prime Minister to decide what they think I would do best. And I like to think that I've worked hard enough now to show that I can do things.
Yeah.
They might not give me anything. There's still that possibility.
But to unite the party, they've got you, because your 59 votes stayed with you, really. Or they built and stayed with you through the voting, didn't they?
Did.
So they are your team, and they might expect to give you that, to unite the party, give you a job in
there were so many talented people who supported me. I really do hope that they all get on and do well post the reshuffle. Not everybody wants to be a minister. Quite a lot of people who supported me were not interested in being ministers. They're interested in the direction of the party. So the opportunity to shape the direction of the party will be critical. That's what I really want to do. I feel that even now Conservatives don't get a fair hearing. We can do so much better amongst the public. Just explain why we pick the policies that we do pick. It's not because we're difficult people. It's because we think they're right and they will be better for everyone in the long term. And making that case better, I think, is something we can do.
Now, we're in a pub and no one else is here. I mean, how did you vote in the final three?
I'm not declaring how I voted. No, I'm not. Because at this stage of the competition, it's really important that we show support for whoever the eventual winner will be. And I wouldn't want, if I voted for candidate A and candidate B won, I wouldn't want people to think that I wasn't supportive of them. So I shall be discreet. But I'm very happy working with either of them. Both of them were Secretaries of State and I was a junior minister to both of them at the same time, actually. So I know them well.
You're no favourite Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss. I mean, you had a go at Rishi, didn't you, about the issue of COVID loans and ignoring your warnings?
Yeah, it was my opportunity to get that out there. I was quite concerned that people assumed that there was some weird conspiracy theory because Michael Gove is friends with both of us, calls us both his proteges, that it was all orchestrated. And
it wasn't true, was it? He wasn't a Machiavellian figure in the background. It's just such a mad thing to think.
I went to Michael, I said, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think? And he said, well, this is what I'm thinking, but if you are serious, show me you are serious and I will back you. And that, for me, was amazing. He said, show me you are serious and I'll back you. So for people to then come out with these crazy conspiracy theories that it was all Dominic Cummings all along, well, how would that have worked? He hypnotised me into wanting to be PM and then going to ask Michael. I mean, it's really crazy. But it also shows just how people will think of far-fetched things because they just don't want to believe that someone is doing things for good and right reasons.
Defence, not defence, but justification of backing you, saying he saw in you a lot of Ruth Davidson and David Cameron.
Yeah, he said that. Yes, that's
which
true.
I thought was interesting. I mean, he had a proper.
And I think that's what is quite remarkable about him, because I know many people were asking him to stand, and he's politically savvy enough and self-aware enough to know that actually it's better to focus on the next generation rather than trying again for the third time, which can be. Not everybody who runs comes out of it in a better position.
I think Jeremy Hunt, sad for him. I mean, he's a good man.
Yes, I think that's right. I think sometimes running may actually show how your support is diminishing rather than enhanced. And I always talk about what Airey Neave did for Margaret Thatcher in terms of backing her, and I look at Michael as someone who did that for me, that he used his political capital to support someone else. It wasn't about him, and I will always be grateful for that.
2 weeks ago today, Boris Johnson resigned. Was that right of MPs to force him out, including you?
Yes, because, I wouldn't think, I have no regrets whatsoever.
Not even after his barnstorming performance in the Commons?
I was very fond of Prime Minister, very, very fond of him. And I defended him constantly to constituents in really difficult times, because I genuinely didn't believe, and other people have different views, I genuinely didn't believe that the Partygate issues were a resigning matter. I felt that it was almost a reflection of us criminalising activity that we shouldn't have done. And we ended up getting hoisted by our own petard, but I didn't think it was a resigning activity. The allegations that came later about the Deputy Chief Whip were a totally different thing. Sexual malfeasance is it's just a non-starter.
Allegations,
yes, it's just not the sort of thing. He
denies allegations.
Yes, exactly. It's the sort of thing which you look at the decisions that were made, and you look at what that former PermSec and the Foreign Office said, and things that I had heard from other colleagues too. I just felt it'd gone too far. That those were not things that I was prepared to defend.
And just finally for Kemi Badenoch, one more heave. Will you be dusting down Kemi for Prime Minister?
I don't know. The decision to run in these things is often, certainly for me, it was in the moment. There was a particular set of circumstances. No one is saying the things that I want said, so I'm going to say them. Next time around, it might be different. So I may not do it again. I don't know. We'll see. But I wouldn't say never, but I'll say we'll see.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you for joining us this week on Choppers Politics. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Chris.
Kemi Badenoch there. Now, we know that MPs dumped Boris Johnson, and I happen to know on some good authority that Johnson is pretty cross about it. He hinted as much in the House of Commons this week when he advised MPs to get off Twitter. 3 cheers to that. And one man is so cross about the removal of his party leader that he has started a campaign to stop it happening. Welcome to Choppers Politics, Lord Cruddas of Shoreditch. Peter Cruddas. Peter, why are you so cross?
Well, I'm angry. probably was born angry. But
you're really angry now.
Well, I think what the Conservative Party have done is anti-democratic. What they've done is they've circumvented and disenfranchised the people that voted for Boris Johnson. Not just the 160,000 members where Boris won in a runoff, he won 64% of the vote, but the 14 million people that voted for the Conservatives and Boris Johnson as the leader at the last election. And I'm angry. Effectively, it boils down to about 30 to 50 politicians, MPs in the House.
Ministers who resigned.
Well, ministers are resigned. To me, I've got no evidence and I don't want to cast aspersions. But it looked like some sort of concerted collusion between these people to get rid of Boris. That's anti-democratic and I'm angry. The people of this country want their voice heard. And these 30 to 40 MPs have effectively cancelled the general election result. We had the shenanigans of Theresa May, a Remainer, trying to run a Brexit government or a Brexit result. That was a disaster. And then 14 million people, 80-seat majority, elected Boris. And now you've seen a carve-up in the House of Commons, a stitch-up by 30 to 40 MPs.
Some of whom were Brexiteers, though, Peter, weren't they? They weren't Remainers doing it to do in a Brexiteer leader. They were Brexiteers who...
But I don't think it comes down to that. I think it comes down to the fact that people decided that they wanted a new leader for whatever reason. Sometimes, the whole system's wrong if you ask me. How you can have 30 to 40 MPs change the leader of the party for whatever reason. Surely this should be for the membership to decide. The system's wrong, and I think the system's being abused by the small number of MPs, and it's a disgrace.
What have you done about this?
Well, we've started a petition. It's called A Ballot for Boris. It's on the Conservative Post website, but if you go to my Twitter account, type in Lord Cruddas or Peter at CMC, and there, if you're a paid-up member of the Conservative membership party, then you can cast a vote to show your disgust at what's happened in the House of Commons. And you're being the
party chairman, Andrew Jameson, aren't you?
We, as part of it, basically we're sending emails as part of this petition. You email the party chairman. And so far, we've had nearly 6,000 party members. 6,000.
In we think 3 or 4 days?
3 or 4 days. It just shows you how angry the membership is. And
some are, let's be fair. 6,000 is a proportion of 200,000.
Well, we don't know how many members there are. No. It ranges between 1 and 200,000. But it's not a hopeless task because the 1922 committee that run the leadership campaign will say, well, once a prime minister's resigned or a leader's resigned, they can't stand in the next campaign for a new leader. But that's disingenuous because we're not asking for Boris to run as part of the leadership. We're saying the members should vote whether to accept his resignation. And the board of the Conservative Party in Article 17 of the Constitution have the right to do whatever is in the best interests of the party. And if the membership are upset and disengaged and disenfranchised from the whole process, then surely it's in the best interests of the party to listen to its members. Whoever wins this leadership, I've come out and said I don't recognise this leadership campaign for the reasons that I've told you about, the membership being disengaged. But ultimately, there's going to be a cloud hanging over this new leader because whoever wins this leadership contest, it's been done without the backing of the membership. So we don't want Boris to stand for the leadership because he's already the leader. So you've got 2 people vying to be the new leader. What we want is a ballot to confirm whether we accept Boris's resignation. If the membership said we accept Boris's resignation, then the leadership campaign can carry on. If the membership says we don't accept Boris's resignation, that means Boris is still Prime Minister and he carries on. And so that's what we're really asking for. Let's give the membership their voice. After all, they're the backbone of the party. These MPs, they come and go. We've got party members that have been working for the party for 60 years, 50 years. MPs come, MPs go. Members need to be heard.
How's it gone down with your colleagues in Parliament? You're one of the most assiduous peers, voting as much as you can. I think one of the top voting records since you became ennobled by Boris Johnson. How are your new pals in the House of Lords and the Commons welcoming your campaign?
I don't ask them, to be honest, because at the end of the day, the one thing I dislike more than anything is disloyalty. How can you have the new leader of a Conservative Party that are either disloyal or vicariously disloyal? You know, MPs should not have allowed this campaign to carry on. But
no one said anything to you in the voting lobbies? No one's complained? What are you doing,
I've
Peter?
had 3 people coming in saying to me that, and I'll tell you something, okay, which I found disgusting. We're in a pub and, you know, one member of Parliament in the House of Lords came to me and was upset that I was disparaging about Rishi in the newspaper. And I said, well, what about the electorate? What about the 14 million? And do you know what this person said?
No.
They don't know what they're voting for. They don't know what they're voting for. And I thought, my God, what contempt, what disrespect for democracy and for individual people. And that's the same attitude towards the members from the parliamentary party. They've got to get out and go north of Watford and live in the real world. They got it wrong over Brexit and they're getting it wrong over Boris. And let me tell you, Boris is not going away. And there'll be a cloud hanging over the new leader.
Well, we'll come on to that shortly. 6,000 members have now written to the party chairman demanding this vote. How many do you think you might get to? What's your target?
Well, first of all, I should say it's been up 48 hours. It's a ballot for Boris on Twitter. As I said, go to my page. By the way, we're being hacked. There's dark arts going on. The site has crashed 3 times, and not through overload, because we've got plenty of servers.
Who's hacking it?
You tell me. Is it the deep state that Boris talked about, the dark arts? I don't know. But, I mean, you don't need to be Einstein to work it out.
But you want to get to, where's your target?
Well, I think we'll get to 20,000.
20,000?
Yeah, that's the target.
It's hard to ignore that number, isn't it, for the party?
Well, I think it's hard to ignore 6,000 where we are now. I mean, 6,000, you know, these are the people, the grassroots people. And, you know, the parliamentary party, let's be honest, the parliamentary party under last leadership said, you know, we're going to choose the leader. Then it got down to Theresa. Never went to the members there. When the members were asked, guess what happened? We won a record majority. 80 seats, biggest since Maggie Thatcher. Listen to the members.
And how are you planning to take your campaign out to these dozen or so in-person hustings starting in Leeds next week? Do you have any...
Well, we've got some ideas about
to
that.
pick at them? What might you do?
Well, I don't want to say anything now. We're still actually looking at it. But some of the
Send a Boris bus out to each one?
Well, that's a possibility. But people are angry. They want to protest. And members want to protest. And it wouldn't surprise me if there are protests. We're a good campaign. We're sticking up for the members. And so if the members want to campaign, that's up to them. But we'll wait and see. But it's, you know, we just got down to the final 2. But it wouldn't surprise me if you don't see protests and a battle bus. You could see that, couldn't you, really?
Do you imagine that members might spoil their ballot papers, write none of the above on their ballot paper if this doesn't happen? Or even write the words Boris Johnson and vote for him, despite the fact he's not on the ballot paper?
Well, that's a possibility. I've heard that from various members. Let me tell you, I can tell you one thing for sure, that membership of the Conservative Party are very angry. They have been undermined by the parliamentary party, telling the membership, thank you for voting for Boris, but we're now going to ignore that. We're now going to put in someone that we want. And by the way, in the next couple of years, can you get out pounding the pavements and putting leaflets through doors and supporting our new leader? What planet are these people on?
I've got to ask you the obvious question, which listeners might be wondering, is, has Boris Johnson put you up to this?
No, definitely not. I mean,
does he mind? He might want to put his feet up on the 6th of September.
Well, I think no, he definitely hasn't put us up to this. This has been a campaign.
Does he want to carry on then?
I'm sure he wants to carry on. He definitely wants to carry on. I think he feels a massive responsibility to the 14 million people that voted for him at the last election.
Many in the red wall, many in areas.
Many in the red wall, the 17.4 that voted for Brexit. Look, Boris is a very loyal politician to the people that voted for him. I saw that firsthand in the Brexit campaign. So even if he personally felt that he wanted to do something else, write a book, I know he's writing a book on Shakespeare, he would feel a sense of duty and responsibility.
A book about his time in office, maybe?
Well, I'm sure he will do that. Maybe we should do a podcast. Going to meet up with him soon.
Yeah, will you ask him for me? Invite him on.
Invite him on, yeah, well, we'll see.
He's got a few enemies to deal with in that book, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to meet up with him soon, and I've got some views about... I've written my book recently.
Yeah, good book.
And Passport to Success, From Milkman to Mayfair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's about the tone. I think Boris is not... I can't speak for him, but if I was him, I would not go away. There's an awful lot of stuff Boris can do. I would rather have him inside the tent than outside the tent.
I reported at the weekend's papers that there's a view that he could form his own political party, like Macron did in En Marche in 2016. What do you think to that idea?
Well, the point is, first of all, there'd be no shortage of backers for Boris. Secondly, I mean, we talk about whether Boris would want to stay on as Prime Minister, but would he want to deal with this rabble, this crowd, this shower of people that have just stabbed him in the back? Would you want to go back into that? I think, politics needs a shake-up.
So when he says hasta la vista, baby, do you think that's him returning from outside the Tory party at some point in the future or staying within it?
Boris is a very articulate, very well educated, classically educated person. When he says something, it's leading on to something else. I read that as, I'll be back. And I tell you now, if Boris is outside the tent, the party are going to regret this.
Just last question. You have been in the past a big donor of the Tory party. You're a former treasurer. Will those donations stop?
Yes. I can't support anti-democratic processes because, I'm on the side of the membership, and I believe that, the Conservative Party today is basically, without Boris, is a centre-left party. I think Labour's hard left. I think the Conservatives are centre to centre left. We need a proper centre-right party in this country.
But you are a party member. When you get your ballot through, saying will you vote for Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak, what will you write in your ballot paper, Peter Cruddas?
I'll write Boris on it.
Peter Cruddas, Lord Cruddas of Shoreditch, thank you for joining this week on Choppers Politics. We'll put a link to your book and an article you've written in the Telegraph entitled "The Conservative Party members should have a vote on whether to accept Johnson's resignation" in the show notes for this episode. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
Peter Cruddas there. Now do stay with us. Next I'll be talking to the last party chairman to organise a mass members vote to find a new Conservative Party leader. Right after this.
If you're finding this podcast interesting, you may also like our new daily podcast, Ukraine, the Latest. Every weekday, the Telegraph's leading journalists bring you the latest news and the most informed analysis of President Putin's invasion of Ukraine. From our newsroom in London and from the ground.
The Russian machine has been ground to a halt now for well over a week, and that is just staggering.
NATO has to act now. It has to do more than it's currently doing. Otherwise, in this Ukrainian MP's words, you'll have to evacuate the whole continent.
One video that we found to be incorrect was bomb squads seen in the Donbass region. The metadata of this clip shows that it was created in 2019, not today.
Search Ukraine, the Latest, in the same place you're listening to this, and click follow so you don't miss an update.
Now, it's 3 short years since the last Conservative leadership election. It's a bit like Doctor Who, where the Doctor regenerates every few years to try and boost flagging ratings. Tory party, please note. And the MP who organised that mass vote of the members was the then chairman, Brandon Lewis. And he joins me now at my usual stool in the Red Lion pub. Brandon Lewis, welcome back to Choppers Politics.
Good morning.
Now, you were formerly the Northern Ireland Secretary. You resigned telling Boris Johnson that his government required honesty, integrity, mutual respect. You helped to remove him, therefore. Do you regret this?
Actually, resigning was one of, if not the hardest thing I've ever done. I didn't sleep the night before. I found it very, very difficult. And actually...
Because you are loyal.
Yeah,
always a loyalist.
If anything, I actually found it quite upsetting. It was really difficult, and I'd had a long conversation with him on the Wednesday night. But I just felt we'd reached that point, sadly, where that government needed to change. I found it very difficult because, having got the majority that Boris got back in 2019, I think he deserved the right to see his mandate through. I absolutely agree with the points I think he's made on that, which is with that kind of mandate we should have been able to see it through. But sadly, the numbers in Parliament has shifted.
And what changed there? Do you think, as I increasingly do, that he was let down by his advisors, by MPs, who didn't protect him from himself, in a sense that he had these massive weaknesses? We know what they are. They became apparent. Admittedly, he didn't listen to any advice, it seems, because he carried on as he was before and didn't get better. But equally, I think the system around him, the protection around him to allow him to do a good job failed.
Well, look, I think we've seen one of the most amazing forces in politics in certainly my generation of politics. You know, the way that he's come through, and people have reeled out the hit list, and it's very fair. You know, he did get Brexit done in a way that people said was not deliverable, and he got it done. Obviously, we're still dealing with the Northern Ireland Protocol, but getting out of the EU and getting that done in 2019, early 2020, was quite phenomenal. The way he took us through COVID, got the vaccine rollout, and it did need that kind of buccaneering, positive spirit that he's got, working Nadine Zahawi then obviously on the delivery of that, working with him as well. And having the courage to open up our economy before anybody else. So I think he can be very, very proud of what he's done. And even I said to him on Wednesday night, what we've done in Northern Ireland, delivering for veterans and the people of Northern Ireland by delivering a new programme of how to deal with the legacy of the past. It's a huge amount of things we should be very proud of, and he should be as well. It's actually quite tragic where we got to.
It is tragic, and that's his particular victory, but hasta la vista, baby, he'll be back, he says. Are members cross that you guys, MPs, have dumped the boss?
One of the things I have picked up is I do think, across the membership, there is a view that this is a membership that overwhelmingly, back in 2019 as well, gave him a mandate as a leader of the party. Then the country gave him a mandate, and I think with members there will be a sense of, you know, why are the MPs overruling what the party members wanted? And I have to say, in my membership and when I've spoken to people around the country, I haven't picked up a sense of they wanted that kind of change. It's something that MPs decided. And the difficult thing for myself,
isn't it?
And the difficult thing for myself and other colleagues in that week, a couple of weeks ago now, and times have moved very quickly, you forget it's a couple of weeks ago now, is that, you know, parliamentarians, what was there, 30, 40 junior ministers had resigned even before I got back from Belfast on the Wednesday night.
We tracked your plane.
Yeah, that was quite an experience. But, you know, when you get to that stage, then you end up in an untenable position. As I say, I think it's very sad we got to that place, but that was just the reality of where the numbers were. And in our game, it's that old thing. The reality is you've got to be aware of the numbers.
Do you worry the Tories keep changing leader?
Yeah, I do. Look, I think there is an issue, and I have been concerned for a while around, and I said this to colleagues over the last few months. You know, our fourth leader in 6 years. Again, the public voted 14 million odd people.
It's like Doctor Who. The party keeps regenerating every 3 years to chase ratings. The problem is the ratings are falling. You're giving up. The doctors are getting worse.
I always said, actually, I was very proud to be party chairman. And one of the best bits of advice I got as party chairman was when you become chairman, it's like Doctor Who. Every chairman can cast that role in their own view. And Andrew Stevenson, who's a great guy, will be a super chairman and to cast it in his own shape. Doing it as leader, I'm not sure we need to be having quite so many Doctor Who's, and it would have been good to have a bit more stability, but it's becoming a sort of 2 to 3 year occurrence now, and I'm not sure that gives the stability that we need for the country. But we are where we are. It's amazing, the Conservative Party, that we had a field of candidates of the diversity we did, and we could be proud of that, even though it's sad that we're in that place in the first place.
Was Boris Johnson right when he said that Britain isn't Twitter? I mean, I think that a lot of you guys, your colleagues, not you, Brandon Lewis, spend too much time on Twitter thinking that is what people think, and it just isn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, my team have often spent a fair bit of time keeping me off Twitter, and you can tell when it's me on Twitter because I'm dyslexic, so the spelling is abysmal. So when the spelling's good, it's generally one of my team. But that is very true. You know, Twitter is a particular. I mean, it's a great tool, and it's
a marketplace for ideas, right?
Yeah, but it isn't the country, and we saw that in 2019. Twitter was telling us we were going to lose in 2019, and we got an overwhelming majority. Twitter told us we were going to win big time in 2017, and it went the other way. So
you're a former party chairman, experienced cabinet minister. Is your party ungovernable?
I think whoever comes in has got a real challenge. When you have the result that we had yesterday with almost a pretty close to even three-way split, that is going to be a real challenge for whoever goes through. And one of the things I do hope is that the two finalists will spend this campaign, actually to an extent what we saw in 2019 that I thought was very, very good, was both the candidates in 2019 were setting out their positive vision for what they would do as leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister. That's what we need to see, not sniping at each other, because that does damage to us. We saw even this week the Labour Party put out that broadcast thing, which was basically Conservatives criticising Conservatives. We must not.
Those are all the attack lines that we're using already.
And it's something I wrote about a week or so ago that I was worried would happen, and Labour have gone and done exactly what we said.
But that's the past 2 weeks. I'm thinking of the wider picture.
Yeah.
You've got the European Research Group against the One Nation Caucus. You've got the 2019 intake against the world, it seems. You've got retired ministers against those who've been sacked. You've got all these competing interests. And my concern for the Tory party is that you're forgetting what you're doing. I mean, you're in there to change people's lives, to cut taxes, to be in power, but you're so busy rallying amongst yourselves.
Well, as you know, Chris, I'm an eternal optimist. And in that vein, I think there is an opportunity to bring people back together. Ian Smith made a point yesterday, I thought it was not unreasonable, which is after something like this, the party has to come together. It generally does, and we've got to make sure we do. One of the strengths, and a huge strength of the Conservative Party, I always felt, is that we are such a broad church. The fact that we have all these different views, what we've got to do is professionally bring that together as one focus. Because if we want to win the next election, we owe it to the country to deliver a Conservative government with low tax. We've got to be united.
And you can do that without a spell in opposition, because some crazy colleagues of yours are saying we need to have a time out of government. I think that is mad.
It is mad, because if we're out of government, the things that Labour could do to damage our economy, damage our constitution, are too scary to behold. Actually, the brilliance of the Conservative Party over history is when we're at our best, we can reshape and reinvent whilst in government. And we have to do that, but we have to do that whilst united.
Now, members are getting a vote in 12 in-person hustings. They start in Leeds next Thursday, and they roll out the rest of the following 3 weeks of August, 4 weeks of August. Now, when you were chairman in 2019, you ran the hustings.
Yes.
How near to going wrong did it get?
It was smooth sailing all the way. It was a finely oiled machine.
It was pretty boring by the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
we stopped reporting.
Well, having said, we did manage to get the biggest gathering of Conservatives in modern history at the Excel with about 5,000 people.
That was amazing.
Which was an amazing experience. And look, one of the things that was clear, it's a very, very hectic period. You've got a couple 100,000 members. You've got the hustings to organise, the teams to get there, and the media to look after, support, and ensure they get good coverage.
I think you gave us access. To be fair to you, that was the first time ever the press had access to these hustings, and that appears to be the pattern going forward now. So it's down to you that we can report it, which is great.
Yeah, well, I took the view of a couple of things. Look, being very frank, the reality is somebody in the room was going to be filming it, taping it, sending it out,
leaking
briefing
it to Telegraph.
So
more of that, please.
We might as well have you guys in there. And also, we're not just selecting the leader of the Conservative Party, we are selecting the future Prime Minister. So I did feel it was right for people to see that. And what was great was, I think, it showed the Conservative Party at its best. Our members were phenomenal. They really showed how good they are. They asked good probing questions. Our candidates gave really positive outlines of what they wanted to do. It showed the Conservative Party at its best, and I hope we'll see that again in the next few weeks.
There's a big campaign launched by Peter Cruddas, Lord Cruddas of Shoreditch. He's on this podcast this week. He wants members to get a vote on whether Boris Johnson should carry on as Prime Minister. What's your view of that?
Look, Peter's a great man, and I was very proud, again, as chairman, when I got to know Peter a bit, particularly during that time. And look, I can understand that. As I said earlier on, it's one of the realities is a lot of members are going to be disappointed that the person they elected as leader has been removed by parliamentarians, not by the membership. But
should it happen?
Look, the reality is we've got a set of party rules. We've got to work by the rules that are in front of us. Whether we like and think the situation we found ourselves in is good or positive or not, that is the rules we're working by. The parliamentarians under those rules now have selected the final two, and we've got to get on, let them put their case, and then select the next leader.
What's your advice to Andrew Jameson today? He's been chairman for 2 weeks, now he's going to run a hustings. across the country.
Look, Andrew's he's a super guy, a great campaigner. I'm a big fan of Andrew's. I think he's going to be a great party chairman, co-chairman with Ben Elliott. And he's got a super team. Look, I was very fortunate at CCHQ to work with a great team of people. We've still got some of the team there who know how to do the hustings. Andrew, I know, will be working closely with them, get on well with them, and they'll enjoy it. And that's the trick. Actually, enjoy it. This is a phenomenal experience.
And just for the record, you ran Nadeem Zahawi's campaign. Who did you vote for in the final two?
I haven't declared, actually. Look,
you mean
because,
the pub, no one's listening.
Yeah, you mean
literally no one's listening.
I
it's my mum listens to this, and Giles records it. That's
I hear rumours you might have a bigger audience than that, Chris. But yes, I supported Nadeem. I ran his campaign. We're very, very old friends, and I enjoyed doing that. And having declared for Nadeem, I think it's right and appropriate. I leave it at that.
Tap once for Rishi and twice for Liz.
You know me better
Morse
than that,
code.
Chris.
All right, not going to tell me, are you? You're a former Northern Ireland Secretary. Why isn't Brexit done yet?
Well, look, we have left the European Union. We have got Brexit done in that sense. But the challenge is we agreed a protocol that was set to ensure good flexibility of products moving, protecting the single market, but protecting the Belfast Good Friday Agreement and UK internal trade. The way the EU have wanted it implemented, though, has prevented that from happening. So we've worked with them for, arguably too long. And I think it is right that we've taken this piece of legislation through. I worked closely
with Liz Truss.
With Liz Truss, before that, David Frost.
So isn't Liz Truss the best vote for a Brexiteer?
Well, Rishi Sunak voted leave, and Liz has been taking the protocol bill through. I think we're blessed to have
the Treasury were not very clear on the VAT rules about the as you well know, Brandon Lewis. you were in that meeting.
I've had an interesting experience over the last couple of years of working as Northern Ireland Secretary. My focus has always been we've got to make sure that products from Great Britain can flow to Northern Ireland in a flexible way.
But can you trust Rishi Sunak on Brexit for Northern Ireland?
I think the Conservative Party and parliamentarians are determined to ensure we fix these issues for Northern Ireland. That's why this bill's gone through committee with big majorities. It's a good bill. It's the right solution, so we keep Northern Ireland strongly as part of the UK, working in terms of its internal market and protecting all three strands of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. That is paramount for us.
Final question, Brandon Lewis. I don't mean to quote some Spanish to you, but what does hasta la vista baby mean?
I think for Boris to go out that way was absolutely... I thought just sort of summed up Boris, that flair and joie de vivre that he has, that is different to anybody else.
As Prime Minister?
I think it's very unlikely that we've seen the end of Boris Johnson in public life. I think he's got a character and a drive and force of personality that keeps life interesting, and I'm sure he will be there to contribute in some form or another over the years ahead.
Well, Brandon Lewis, talking over the noise of building works happening in the Red Lion pub. Thanks for joining us this week on Choppers Politics. Great to have you on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon Lewis there. Well, that's all for this week, listeners. I'd love to know your thoughts on what any of our guests have said today. Please email me, chopperspolitics@telegraph.co.uk, or tweet me. We're at Choppers Podcast. And for more from me, please do sign up to my daily Choppers Politics newsletter, bringing you the best Westminster insights straight into your email inbox every weekday. Sign up for that by going to telegraph.co.uk/politics newsletter. And do be sure to check out my weekly Peterborough Diary gossip column at 7 p.m. on Fridays on our website and in Saturday's newspaper. Thank you once again to my guests this week, Kemi Badenoch MP, Lord Cruddas of Shoreditch, Peter Cruddas to you and me, and of course Brandon Lewis MP. Thank you as ever to the brilliant team of producers behind this podcast, Giles Gear and Louisa Wells. And most of all, thank you to you, for listening. And remember, if you can, please do buy a copy of your Daily Telegraph, available in all good newsagents. You won't regret it. Until next time though, cheerio!